Solo Leveling, Chapter 121. The gate that shouldn't exist. The plane touched down in silence. Not because there were no sounds, but because no one dared make any. Even the wind at the edge of the Tokyo airfield seemed cautious, as though nature itself feared what loomed on the horizon. Sung Jinwoo stepped out without ceremony. No press, no escort, no welcome, just him, and the heavy scent of tension clinging to the morning air. A black car pulled up, its engine humming softly like it was afraid to interrupt. Inside waited the man in charge of Japan's Hunter Association, his face worn, his eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights. He opened the door for Jinwoo without a word. He knew better than to speak, because words, they weren't enough anymore. The city blurred past as they drove, but not with speed, with stillness. Tokyo wasn't alive. Not anymore. It felt frozen. Windows were shuttered. Streets were abandoned. Trains had stopped. People were gone, evacuated or hiding. But not because of a monster. No, because of a gate. It wasn't like the others. It wasn't just hovering. It was pressing, bending the very space around it, its gravity gnawing at the air like a silent scream. Jinwoo stared at it through the window as they approached. Tall, dark, wide enough to swallow buildings whole, and pulsing like it had a heartbeat. The man beside him finally broke the silence. We lost contact with our entire team inside. His voice was rough, exhausted, and beneath every word, there was a quiet plea. Please fix what we couldn't. Go-to Ryuji was leading them. He showed Jinwoo a tablet. The footage was broken, static flickering across the screen, audio fragmented like shattered glass. But the message was clear. Goto's team entered proud, weapons drawn, spirits high. And what they found were giants. Not like ogres or trolls. These were ancient, heavy, towering. Each one looked like it had been carved from bedrock and rage. Eyes that glowed with a cold, patient hatred. Bodies that didn't flinch from blades or spells. The battle lasted seconds. Screams. A shadow. A hand descending like the sky itself was falling. And then silence. This, the man whispered, was the last thing we ever saw. Jinwoo didn't blink, didn't speak. He simply handed the tablet back. The car slowed as they neared the gate's perimeter. Jinwoo stepped out before the vehicle even came to a full stop. The gate stood just ahead, taller than any skyscraper. A rift in reality, a scar carved deep into the sky. And it felt hungry. It didn't radiate mana like other gates. It consumed it, swallowed it like a void. Jinwoo's footsteps echoed faintly on the concrete as he walked toward it. Soldiers shifted uneasily. A few reached for weapons without realizing. The gate wasn't guarded. It was avoided. Even the wind refused to blow near it. But Jinwoo didn't hesitate. He passed the barrier, ignoring the protests behind him. And as he crossed the threshold, the world changed. The air grew colder and thicker. The sky above was gray and motionless, without clouds or sun or sound. It felt trapped in time, like walking underwater through a dream stitched from shadows. Everything around him was alien. Ruins stretched for miles, cracked, crumbled towers that no human hands had built. And then he saw them. The giants, dozens, all standing still. Their skin was cracked stone, pulsing with deep crimson veins. Their eyes were dim, but watching. They weren't charging, weren't attacking. They were waiting, like guards stationed before a throne no one dared sit on. Behind Jinwoo, his shadows began to rise. Beru emerged first, stretching insectoid limbs, his voice soft and trembling with anticipation. My king, there are many. Tusk followed, grinning wildly, his body glowing with buried runes of magic barely held back. Igris stepped forward and knelt without a word, his sword already drawn. But Jinwoo, he didn't move. He just looked ahead, scanning the army of stone. No fear. No doubt. Just resolve. One of the giants stirred. The sound was slow, like an avalanche waking from slumber. Its foot scraped against the earth, grinding into the stone below. Then another moved, and another. The tremors rippled outward like thunder trapped beneath the surface. Jinwoo exhaled, not because he was nervous, But because the time for waiting was over, he didn't draw his sword, didn't summon more shadows. He simply stepped forward, and the giants responded. A massive arm rose high above, casting a long shadow across the broken land. But before it could fall, Jinwoo vanished, not from speed, but from intention. He wasn't running, he was hunting, and the gate had just become his territory. Chapter 121 doesn't end with screams. It ends with silence, the kind that comes just before the first strike, the kind that makes even monsters hesitate, because something worse than giants had entered their world, something they didn't understand, and couldn't stop. Final whisper cliffhanger teaser. The giants thought they were guardians, but the true danger had already slipped past them. Chapter 122 is where the real slaughter begins. Solo leveling. Chapter 122, the war begins. Third-person cinematic storytelling. Immersive, slow pacing, US. Thriller tone. The first blow had already fallen, but it hadn't landed on Jinwoo. It landed on the giants, and it wasn't made of steel. It was fear. The instant he vanished from their sight, the moment the King of Shadows disappeared into their ranks like a ghost, the battlefield shifted. Not physically, psychologically, because what the giants faced wasn't a man. It was a predator. And now, they were the hunted. Inside the ruined city beyond the gate, silence snapped like a string pulled too tight. The air cracked, with the pulse of mana so sharp, so unnatural. The stone beneath Jinwoo's feet fractured in a web of jagged lines. He reappeared midair, his blade already drawn, black aura wrapping around his body like liquid fire. One of the giants turned, slow to slow, and that hesitation cost it everything. Because Jinwoo didn't strike to wound, he struck to erase. The blade cut through flesh, stone, and ancient magic as if reality itself had been sliced apart. A roar exploded from the behemoth's mouth, not in pain, but in denial. It couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Its body crashed backward, a creature that stood higher than houses, built to endure entire armies, brought low by one man, and the others saw it. They watched the strongest among them fall with one clean blow, and the Shadow Monarch didn't stop. He landed with silence, not because his step was soft, but because the shockwave drowned out sound. Dust spiraled around him, kicked up from the crash. His shadows surged in the periphery like wolves released from a cage. Beru leapt next, his jagged claws tearing through the chest of a second giant before it could even raise its hand. A Gris followed, dancing beneath a third, blade sweeping out in elegant arcs of death. Tusk chanted in the distance, his staff glowing with blood-red magic. Then, a meteor of flame rained down, smashing a cluster of giants like divine judgment. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. The gate had become a slaughterhouse, and Jinwoo stood at the center. His face was calm, expressionless, but his eyes burned, not with rage, with clarity. Each step he took was a statement. This world isn't yours to invade, and with every slash, another colossus fell. They tried to fight back. Some roared, fists slamming the ground hard enough to shake the world. Others hurled debris, spells, even pure energy, but none of it mattered. Jinwoo moved like death on a mission, fluid, unstoppable. He teleported behind another, blade piercing its spine, shadows coiling into its core. Rise. And the body didn't hit the ground. It rose again, now one of his. Minutes passed, then more, and still the battle continued. But now the battlefield had changed again, because it was growing. For every giant that fell, another shadow joined Jinwoo's ranks. The ground beneath him darkened. The air felt heavier, not from weight, but from dominion. This was his territory now. The giants began to falter, not from wounds, but from something worse. They hesitated. They looked to the throne that sat at the center of their city, still untouched, as if waiting for orders that would never come. But the silence stretched too long, and in that hesitation came death. Above it all, a presence watched. Not one of the giants, not a monster, something else, something older. It sat in the shadows of the throne, not visible, not defined, But there, it didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't move. It simply observed. Jinwoo paused. His blade lowered slightly as his eyes narrowed toward the distant seat. He felt it now. This wasn't a raid dungeon. This wasn't a monster invasion. This was a test. And the examiner had just taken notice. The remaining giants rallied. A last stand. For Circle Jinwoo, larger than the rest, decorated in armor carved from obsidian. They roared in unison, and the sky above cracked. But Jinwoo didn't back away. Instead, he smiled. Not wide, not mocking, just enough to say, "You're already too late, Beru, with me." And the Shadow General lunged, his wings splitting the wind as the two collided with the giants like a spear of black lightning. The battlefield shook, stone shattered, dust exploded skyward, and for a moment there was only chaos. When it cleared, 3 giants lay broken. The 4th trembled, not from pain, but from knowing it was next. Jinwoo stood amid the rubble, untouched. Beru knelt at his side, claws dripping, eyes glowing. And above it all, the presence watching finally moved. The throne room darkened, not visually, spiritually. Jinwoo looked up, eyes locked with something unseen, and smiled again. "So you're finally paying attention." Chapter 122 ends not with victory, but with invitation. Jinwoo wasn't here to survive. He wasn't here to defend. He was here to conquer. And whoever sat on that throne was about to find out what it meant to challenge the Shadow Monarch. Final whisper cliffhanger teaser. The test is over. The real war is about to begin. Chapter 123 brings the throne to life.